Joining me now is the former ambassador at large of global criminal justice for President Trump. This is Morse, and he had a very important job in the previous Trump administration. You focused on war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about South Korea. This is a big topic. You're going to be speaking here 3 times at CPAC, and South Korea is going to be one of the main topics that you're covering.
Yes.
What do the American people need to know about what's happening there?
Yes. Well, the U.S. prevented South Korea from being taken over by North Korea during the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. We had 50,000 casualties during that war. There was more bombs dropped in the Korean War than all of World War II. And now South Korean's democracy is on the brink. They are attempting to take out the duly elected president of Korea through impeachment and conviction before the South Korean Constitutional Court. There needs to be 6 out of 8 votes on the Constitutional Court to remove President Yoon, who is conservative, who is aligned with the U.S., who is standing up against North Korea and the Chinese Communist Party, who is also aligning himself with Japan together with the U.S. to counter North Korean and Chinese malign influence. And he is potentially weeks away from being prematurely cut off and removed from office because he dared to try to go after the election cheating, and there are many indicators of the election cheating that have been going on that has led to legislative tyranny and also all this malign influence from the Chinese Communist Party and the North Korean communists permeating key parts of South Korean society. This is the crisis that our key ally, South Korea, is in right now as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when you think about South Korea has been a strong ally for us, but it's not just the immediate threat of North Korea like you're talking about. Yeah. It's the long-term potential threat that China poses as well.
Yes.
When you think about everything that's happened, you said this is 3 weeks away from potentially occurring.
Potentially so, yes.
So we're probably going to be hearing about this more and more in the headlines.
Yes.
What needs to happen in order for people to start talking about this and wake up and pay attention to what's happening in South Korea?
Yeah, I think it would really help if our wonderful second Trump administration would be willing to speak into this. This would not be interfering in another country. This would be helping to see to it that the people's voice of South Korea, the democracy there, can actually operate as it should. Why are there Huawei components inside of the voting mechanisms in South Korea? Why are there Chinese protesters calling for the removal of President Yoon, who can't even speak Korean, but they're in Korea trying to advocate for the removal of President Yoon? Why are various North Korean operatives being allowed to run unchecked, spies and agents, because the South Korean legislature had slashed the funding to root out the North Korean spies in South Korea? These are the sorts of things that are happening. And because President Yoon dared to call this out, dared to seek the evidence for this through the servers and things along those lines, he is being attacked for that reason. Yeah.
If you ask most Americans who our greatest foreign adversary is, they say China.
Yeah.
We really have to watch every single move that China is making.
Yes.
And I know when you were working for the Trump administration in the past that you focused heavily on China.
Yes.
What were some of the strides you made, and where do we need to focus now when it comes to China?
Yes, on the final day of the last Trump administration, we got across the finish line the mass atrocity determinations for genocide and crimes against humanity that the Chinese Communist Party is perpetrating. It's not only in Xinjiang province, it's also against those in Tibet. It's also against the Falun Gong. They've destroyed more Christian churches than any other government in the world. If you combine all the other governments in the world, they do not exceed the number of Christian churches that the Chinese Communist Party has destroyed. They're trying to change the Bible, of all things, and the Quran and other things along those lines. Anything that threatens the absolute allegiance that they are calling for in China. And if you are not a Han Chinese communist, you are less than in China and certainly outside of China. And so the Chinese Communist Party is playing for keeps. They're trying to dominate the world. They are trying to supplant the U.S. as the lone superpower. And we had many lines of effort in the Trump administration the first time around to counter the malign influence of the Chinese Communist Party. And I expect that the second Trump administration will continue on that.
Well, thank you so much for speaking up about something that many people would not be as brazen as you to talk about. So thank you, and keep up on the good work, and keep us posted as well at RSBN.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be with you.